With so many secret recipes and mixes out there in the cocktail world, do you ever wonder if they really are that secret or if they ever really were? Are these mysterious cocktails and ingredients true mysteries or just spun up stories? That's what I ask myself all the time. Now, for most of us, we get our information about these things from other people. Books, newspaper articles, magazines, blogs, and nowadays, video. And we know and should be confident that a book goes through some rigor. There's sources, often cited, an editor and publisher, and probably even a bunch of lawyers. But outside of that, everything else is kind of fair game. And in the world of online blogs, message boards, and videos, you usually don't get sources. Often it's just recycled information from someone or somewhere else without telling you where that information comes from, and the story grows and grows from there. And what I'm getting at is Jasper's secret mix. And we'll talk more about Jasper LeFranc in a moment, but at this point in time, his secret mix is no longer a secret. It's been covered in books and blogs, it's on Reddit, and in many videos. But was it ever actually a secret? No, it was never a secret. And this is easy to prove. Let's take Don the Beachcomber here, hypothesizing for a minute. If you asked Don for one of his many secrets, he would have said no, making it a secret. If you were to ask Jasper LeFranc for his mix or many of his cocktail recipes, he would have given it to you, making it not a secret. See how that works? For those that don't know, this secret mix is known as Jasper's Mix, or sometimes Jasper's Secret Mix, and it's lime juice, sugar, Angostura bitters, and nutmeg, or batching a planter's punch. Jasper LeFranc was a bartender at the Bay Roc Hotel in Montego Bay in Jamaica. The hotel opened in 1953 and closed in 1981 and is now a sandals resort. It is believed that LeFranc worked there starting in the 1960s and was there until the hotel was rebranded to Sandals, and after that was never heard from again. One of the most famous Caribbean bartenders of all time, and there are no pictures of him and no information about what he did next after the Bay Roc Hotel. And this is not the early 1900s, this is 1950s to 1981. And this is where I don't know that much more about him. I've pretty much not seen any primary source information on him outside of what was written by Jeff Berry, Trader Vic, or Ted Haigh. Nothing I could find in any online archives, old magazines, or even Jamaican newspapers. There's really just not much info that I could find. And the secret part of this really comes alive from Ted Haigh's book, Vintage Spirits and Forgotten Cocktails, which is an excellent book, spiral bound, which I love. And in the book, Haigh shares Jasper's secret mix, and it came to him through well-known rum enthusiast Stephen Remsburg, who had visited the Bay Roc Hotel several times and was able to get this secret recipe from Jasper LeFranc. And when this book comes out in 2004, it's the first time this secret mix, this Jasper secret mix, shows up in print, and it's 23 years after the Bay Roc Hotel closes. That would kind of lend to the argument making it a secret. But it's not the first time that we see this recipe. Some other guy wrote about this mix 30 years earlier when Jasper LeFranc was still working at the Bay Roc Hotel. This was author Victor Bergeron, and in his 1974 book, Trader Vic's Rum Cookery and Drinkery, he shares a recipe for something called Basic Stock Mix, which consisted of lime juice, sugar, Angostura, and nutmeg. Now, Trader Vic notes that Jasper LeFranc is incredibly well known in Jamaica, and everyone they asked told them to go see Jasper at the Bay Roc Hotel. But Jasper didn't actually give the recipe to Trader Vic. He gave it to Shirley Sarvis. Sarvis co-wrote the book with Trader Vic, and she was the one on the ground collecting recipes. Sarvis had worked at Sunset Magazine, Better Homes and Gardens, Gourmet, and freelance for many other publications. She also co-wrote several other books. She also assisted Trader Vic with several other books as an assistant or an editor. Not only was Shirley Sarvis able to get the basic stock mix, but she obtained 9 other cocktails from Jasper LeFranc, from the Frozen Eskimo to the Witch Doctor, by just asking. All of this proving the point that this mix and these recipes from Jasper LeFranc were not secrets. Otherwise, he would have kept them as a secret. So today, we'll make the 2 cocktails from Ted Haigh's book. Those recipes are slightly different from the Trader Vic's books, and I will come back another time to make some of those ones that are found in the Trader Vic's Rum Cookery and drinkery book. But first up, we have to make our basic stock, or Jasper's not-so-secret mix. It calls for the juice of 12 limes, but to make things accurate, let's actually use 12 ounces of lime juice. And if you want to be less wasteful, we should peel our limes first, and then we can use those lime peels later on to make some lime cordial. I'm using a cheap electric juicer here. I usually break this thing out when I need to juice more than a couple limes. This helps speed things up and cuts down on some of the waste. Once we get about 12 ounces of lime juice, I'll make sure to strain it into a container. And then I'm gonna add in 1.5 cups of sugar. And I realize the mistake now that this container is too small. You're gonna stir this up until the sugar is fully dissolved, or as Jasper probably did not do, you could break out your magnetic stir to speed things up. We're gonna need to grate half of a whole nutmeg, and I'll do that first. Now into a bottle, I'm gonna dump in my nutmeg, followed by my lime juice and sugar. And finally, 1¼ ounces of Angostura bitters. Now, make sure that you put that cap back on your Angostura bitters, or the next time you go to dash out a single dash, you will be in trouble. So there you go. Jasper's basic stock mix, or Jasper's secret mix. Now I should note here that I don't think that this mix makes any sense for any of us at home, at least, to make it. This mix seemingly is not about the secret mix, but it's about batching. So at a busy bar, you can pour some rum and then some of this mix into a glass. You can swizzle it or shake it and then serve it. In fact, the components of this mix are the exact components that me and many others would use to make a standard planter's punch, with the one exception that the nutmeg is already inside of the mix. So I am making this entire video off of this mix and making this mix and telling you I don't know why you would ever make this outside of an event or a party. And despite what we may have been told, this is not going to last you days or weeks. It has fresh lime juice in it. Angostura bitters possesses no magical properties to preserve fresh lime juice. This ends up as just an Angostura and nutmeg sour mix. But if you do make this mix, you can make the 2 cocktails today, plus more that I will share here soon. Into a couple of Collins glasses, I'm going to add in 1.5 ounces of our basic stock mix, and then 1.5 ounces of Coruba rum to one of the glasses, and 1.5 ounces of Wray Nephew to the other. I'll add in some ice, and I will swizzle. I'll now top with some more ice and swizzle some more. I will garnish each one of these with some mint, and that's it. And if you don't want to go to the trouble of making the mix, but you want to play along, you can use just 1 ounce of lime juice and a light 3/4 ounces of a rich 2-to-1 simple syrup and about 6 dashes of Angostura bitters. You can also add some fresh nutmeg into the glass before swizzling. You'll end up with something approximating the same amount of lime juice and Angostura per drink as Jasper's mix. Jasper's Jamaican Planter's Punch and Jasper's Rum Punch. Let's try these. The first one we're going to try is the Jasper's Planter's Punch, which is with Coruba. And a note on Coruba is back in the 60s, 70s, I don't know when they changed the formula, but the formula would have been a little bit different. I don't know exactly what that would have tasted like. I assume it would have been less of this sort of real dark molasses rum. So if you're someone who ever had one of those Corubas from, let's say, the 70s, let me know in the comments. But my understanding is a little bit more of that pot still flavor, a little less of sort of the dark molasses note to it. So let's try this. Cheers. Now, in my opinion, this ends up being very sweet, and it kind of feels like a molasses sweetness because of the flavor of the rum. Because there's not a lot of stuff changing the flavor of the drink. There's not a lot of modifiers in here. You have rum, Angostura, lime juice, and sugar. But if you look at the recipe for this mix, and then if you take the recipe that I shared with you, the like a la carte version of this, without making the mix, using 1 ounce of lime juice and about 3/4 of an ounce of a 2-to-1 simple. That's quite a bit of sweetness for 1 ounce of rum, or 1.5 ounces of rum as well. When I do a planter's punch, I do 3 ounces of rum, 1 ounce of lime juice, and half an ounce of a 2-to-1 simple. So that's a preference thing, but to me, this is like very sweet. A full 1.5 ounces of the Jasper's mix with just 1.5 ounces of rum. Making it again with all the Jasper's mix I have left, I would bump that up to 2.5 ounces of rum at least. Or alternatively, you could drop the mix, keep the rum the same. Now, the sweetness aspect here too is this is using 12 ounces of lime juice in the mix as opposed to just juicing 12 limes, where most limes, for the most part, seasonally depends, most limes aren't going to get you a full ounce, especially if you're using smaller limes or if you're looking back at these older recipes. So the mix becomes a little bit problematic if you just follow the recipe exactly as is. But sweetness and tartness are all personal preferences. It's up to how you perceive tartness and sweetness. I find the tartness to be fine. I find the sweetness to be a little bit too much. Still totally drinkable and delicious, but that doesn't really ever matter to me. If a drink that you see on, whether it's on paper or you make it's too sweet, then make it less sweet next time. The next time you make it, use less sugar in your Jasper's mix, or use less mix in your drink, or use more rum. It's not about, being exact and perfect each time that you make it or the first time that you make it. It's about making it, seeing if you like it, and then modifying it. You don't have to keep it exactly the same. So this to me leans a little bit too sweet, but we also have a 40% ABV rum. And the next one, same ratios, but a higher proof rum. So let's try Jasper's Rum Punch. Cheers. Still pretty sweet, but not as sweet as the one with Coruba. You get more of that fruitiness. You get the Wray Nephew flavor, but as a Wray Nephew cocktail, it's pretty subdued. It's not. If you don't like the overproof Jamaicans, I don't know. I think there's enough sweetness and dilution here to really knock it down. Combining these two rums into one planter's punch with the Jasper's mix seems like maybe the best case scenario here, by using an ounce and an ounce, maybe an ounce and a quarter, and 1.5 ounces of Jasper's mix. So, like I've already said several times, it's really not about following the recipe exactly as described in Ted Haig's book or in Trader Vic's book. It's just the premise of these ingredients together. Whether you want to make a mix and store that, or you have a big party, or you want to do it per cocktail by using just some lime juice, some Angostura, and some nutmeg into the drink. I do love the nutmeg in the mix and not just on the top. It does add a nice little dimension to it that you don't get in many cocktails. All right, if it wasn't that clear, I hope that the takeaway here from me is not anything critical of Jasper LeFranc, but more a criticism about cocktail culture in general, or maybe just a point of reference. As consumers, as people who make the content, and when I say content, I'm not talking about YouTube, I'm talking broad. Writing it, talking about it, we often just take the things that someone says as being a gospel when it's not. And anything I say should not be taken as gospel either. You could maybe find an article somewhere tomorrow that says Jasper had this secret mix. These things are all possibilities, but we often just take what one person says at one point in time, and then 1,000 people say it again, and it becomes this myth. And this was something that always stuck to me, where for Ted Haigh to call it Jasper's Secret Mix kind of makes sense, because he was given that recipe from a friend who obtained it through, visiting the Bay Roc Hotel. So it seems like it could be secretive. But the reason it was a secret was because I assume he didn't know that this book existed. And this book has a couple nuggets of information in it from Trader Vic that go back to the 70s, at least, to provide contemporaneous sourcing to things. For instance, people still whenever I talk about rock candy syrup, they say, oh no, rock candy syrup's not a 2-to-1 ratio of sugar to water. It's 3-to-1 or 4-to-1. This is the only book Trader Vic ever shared that has a recipe for rock candy syrup. And if you follow that recipe by weight, it is exactly 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. There is no other reference that exists talking about rock candy syrup. So we know, because of this book, that rock candy syrup is a 2-to-1 ratio sugar to water syrup. But not many people have this book or know this book exists. It's not the bartender's guide from the 70s. It's not the bartender's guide from the 40s or the Pacific Island Cookbook. So there's some things you find in this book that disprove some things that you might find in other books. And my belief here, and the way I look at it, is that's probably true of so many things. We don't know what we don't know. So I try to provide things by giving you a source, according to so-and-so, according to this, according to that, and not just saying it as if it's a matter of fact, because it's probably not. Every day, people are finding more and more things and more books and more things that are quote unquote lost of time, that were never really lost of time. They were just not known to a mass of people. And I think that that's great. I think it's great that we find more stuff. I'm not worried that you're going to come back in, 6 months to 5 years and point to something in a video I shared that's wrong. It's great. That's great if we find out more things. That's progress. So that is it for this one. Jasper's secret, not so secret mix, Jasper's Planter's Punch, Jasper's Jamaican Rum Punch. Both are excellent, but for my preferences, they need to be adjusted a little bit, which would be really easy to do by just adding more rum to each one of these. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like below, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want to support this channel more, check out my Patreon page. Otherwise, till the next one.